The man went to find his on-duty wife after traveling with the scheming woman. However, he found his wife had already resigned from the company. She had also taken half the company's orders. The man flew into a rage. He immediately wanted to call his wife to ask what happened. Instead, he saw a message from her informing him of divorce. The woman's decisiveness was entirely the man's own fault. Once, to see her husband every day, she followed his advice. She gave up her million-yuan annual salary job to work at the company where he was deputy general manager, starting over as an ordinary salesperson. In 5 years, through hard work, she ranked first in performance every year. She brought in over half the company's profits, yet she never got corresponding benefits. Instead, she found her husband had an ambiguous relationship with the scheming female director. As a deputy general manager, he even took orders from the female sales director in everything. A few days earlier, the woman had just secured a 10 million yuan order for the company. The scheming woman planned to take everyone on a team-building trip to the Maldives, but deliberately asked the woman to stay on duty. The woman could no longer bear it and asked angrily. She had secured the order, so why wasn't her name on the recognition list? And why was she excluded from the team building? But the scheming woman said it was the company's overall arrangement. Moreover, her husband was the vice president. As his wife, what was wrong with making a sacrifice? Everyone present echoed her. Her husband remained silent. The woman asked him if he thought the same. Only then did he stammer that the scheming woman was also thinking of the company, and he would compensate her later. She had seen this scene countless times in 5 years, but never got any compensation. She was completely disappointed with him, but calmly agreed to stay on duty. Seeing this, the scheming woman thought she had control over her, and even sarcastically said she would bring back Maldivian sand for her when they returned. Little did she know the woman chose not to quarrel directly only to save face. Instead, she was about to message her husband to ask for divorce, but then the scheming woman messaged her, asking her to sort out important client information and send it to her during their trip. She would take over the client from then on. The woman was furious. It was obvious the scheming woman wanted to steal her achievements. She remembered her husband and the scheming woman had often teamed up to steal her work like this before. She thought she couldn't let them get away with it. Since she had decided to divorce and resign, she would take everything that belonged to her. So she immediately contacted a company that had long wanted to hire her with a high salary. The company promised that if she brought the important clients' orders, they would give her the position of sales director with a million-yuan annual salary and a considerable dividend. The woman signed the contract with the new company on the spot. The scheming woman, unaware of all this, kept urging her to send the client information, because the important client would renew the contract right after their team building, and the scheming woman would get a dividend then. The woman reminded her the client was hers, and only trusted her, but the scheming woman sneered that clients recognized the company's orders, not individuals. She was just a liaison, telling her not to overestimate herself. Little did she know the client was the woman's classmate, and the woman had used many resources to connect with the senior management of her classmate's company to get the order. The woman was confident the order would not exist without her, but she didn't argue with the scheming woman, only reminding her the order accounted for 35% of the company's annual revenue. The scheming woman said she knew that, and warned her not to play tricks. The woman then sent her the client information, and called the client, to explain the change of liaison. As expected, the client insisted on only working with her. The woman gained more confidence, and immediately wrote her resignation email, setting the send date for the day they returned from team building. At this time, everyone in the department was ready for the trip, even her husband. The scheming woman deliberately assigned 3 interns to her, to keep her busy. Seeing her agree without any emotion, her husband faintly felt something was wrong. He pretended to comfort her, saying he would compensate her when they returned. He never knew the company might no longer exist by then, until they learned the wife had resigned and taken 70% of the company's resources. The husband and the scheming woman finally realized in despair. The woman they once manipulated and bullied at will was surprisingly resourceful when she turned ruthless. It happened just a few days earlier. The woman had just secured a 10 million yuan order. The husband and the scheming female supervisor invited everyone on a team-building trip to the Maldives, but deliberately left her to be on duty. Before leaving, the scheming woman not only assigned 3 interns for her to train, but also taunted her, saying they would send travel photos to her in the company group. Her husband also pretended to say he would make it up to her when he returned. The woman couldn't help taunting him. Was he not afraid the company would go bankrupt after the trip? The husband rebuked her on the spot for nonsense. He thought that if he acted angry, she would back down and take good care of the company. He had always cooperated with the scheming woman this way, controlling her to work for them selflessly. That's why the scheming woman had dared to take her important client information without scruple before. During the Maldives trip, after reading the client information, the scheming woman called directly. She said she would replace the woman to negotiate renewal with the client, to get the bonus that belonged to her. But the client said he didn't know her at all. He only talked orders with the woman. Then he hung up the phone. The scheming woman was stunned. She called again to explain she was the supervisor with more authority, but found the number unreachable. Enraged and embarrassed, she insisted the client information the woman sent was faulty, causing her failure to contact the client. She angrily told the husband to pressure the woman to hand over more clients' private information. Surprisingly, the deputy general manager husband obeyed completely. He called the woman directly, questioning if she had withheld key information from the scheming woman. The woman responded professionally. The material she gave were standard backups from from the company archive. As for client's private information, it was her own 5-year accumulated connections, not part of the handover. The husband had to pretend to persuade her, asking her to send the private materials first, saying he owed her a favor, but the woman replied coldly. His favor was worthless to her now. Then she hung up. The husband and the scheming woman were furious but helpless. Little did they know the client called soon after, wanting to discuss renewal with the woman, but she told an intern to inform the client. The order was now the scheming woman's. The client was enraged, and threatened to cancel the order. The scheming woman and the husband collapsed. The scheming woman called the woman urgently to rebuke her, insisting she had sown discord with the client to ruin the order. She ordered her to kneel and apologize to the client to get the order back. They didn't know the woman had planned to leave the company, to work at another company that had been offering her a high salary. After learning this, the client came at once to celebrate her freedom. He promised his orders would follow her to any company, to help her get even. He sued the scheming woman's company, demanding triple liquidated damages for failing to renew the contract. The scheming woman couldn't stay calm. After all, she caused the trouble, and couldn't afford the responsibility. But the husband remained calm, saying he would handle it when they returned. The wife would obey him and fix the client issue. Later, the scheming woman and the husband returned to the company angrily. They shouted for the woman to see them immediately, only to be told she had been absent all day. The scheming woman flew into a rage, rebuking her for thinking she was the president's wife. The husband also told the scheming woman not to care about his vice general manager status, and handle her as she pleased. The scheming woman then announced she would cancel the woman's monthly performance bonus, demote her to an ordinary salesperson and cut her salary in half. The husband cooperated, saying he would punish her personally when she arrived, and force her to hand over all her private materials, connections and cards to the scheming woman. The scheming woman was overjoyed, and exchanged flirtatious glances with the husband. Just then, a subordinate reported the important client had officially terminated all cooperation, and all previous intended orders were invalid. The scheming woman and the husband were dumbfounded. The husband tried to call his wife, only to find he was blocked. Then the personnel supervisor came and told them the woman had submitted her resignation the day they left for the trip, with the email set to be sent today. The husband was stunned. He tried to message her via chat software, only to receive her message proposing a divorce. Until the woman took out ambiguous photos of her husband and the scheming woman, the husband broke down and realized his wife had long noticed the abnormal relationship between him and the scheming woman. No wonder she not only suddenly resigned from the company this time, but also insisted on divorcing him. It turned out that just yesterday, the husband and the scheming woman returned from their trip. They were told the major client the woman had handled canceled the renewal and other intended cooperation. The client also sued their company for triple liquidated damages. The husband immediately got angry and wanted to blame his wife, but the personnel supervisor told him, on the day they left for the trip, the woman had submitted her resignation email. The system had approved it automatically. The woman was no longer a company employee. Everyone was stunned after hearing this. Although the woman had always been suppressed by her husband and the scheming woman in the company, everyone knew she was highly capable. She brought in more than half of the company's business. Now that she resigned suddenly, the company might collapse. Moreover, she would likely take her client resources with her. The husband and the scheming woman were also terrified. They could not afford such consequences. At this moment, the woman sent another message to her husband. She asked how the scenery was at the travel spot. Then she directly asked for a divorce. The husband collapsed completely when he saw it, but the scheming woman stirred up trouble and said the woman was just upset and throwing a fit because they didn't take her on the trip. The scheming woman's follower echoed, an employee like her who only knew how to handle business. Without this company and her deputy general manager husband, she would never find a high-paying job. No one would even hire her to wash dishes. The husband felt a little better after hearing this. He thought his wife could not live without him. He could control her again with some tricks. The scheming woman then suggested, since the woman had resigned, they might as well sue her for stealing commercial secrets using her position, and causing client loss due to neglect of duty. Make her bear the company's losses and get into heavy debt. Then she would definitely come back and beg him to reconcile. The husband agreed at once, but considering the woman had many private client resources, they finally decided to threaten her first, sue her only after getting those resources. However, when the husband called to ask for a meeting, the woman blocked him directly. The husband was furious but helpless. What he didn't know was, the woman had already joined the rival company. She was valued and promoted directly to branch director, yet the woman did not get complacent. Instead, she hurried to arrange her work. She wanted to use her private client data to seize more resources from her former company quickly. The new boss valued her even more. He signed a high-value profit-sharing agreement on the spot. Her new colleagues admired her greatly. They thought their year-end bonus would multiply several times under her leadership. With the woman and her colleagues' cooperation, they soon seized many resources from the former company. Many former colleagues sensed something was wrong. They took the initiative to contact her. They wanted to quit and follow her. The husband was even angrier and kept sending her her messages, threatening her to reply or face the consequences. The woman found it ridiculous and ignored him. However, when she got off work that day, she found her husband and mother-in-law had broken into her private apartment without permission. Until clients canceled their partnerships one after another, even the bank refused to renew the loan. The husband finally broke down and realized the wife he had always controlled easily had surprisingly impacted the company so much after resigning. Not long ago, the woman had just secured a 10 million yuan order for the company. The man and the scheming female supervisor invited everyone on a trip to celebrate, but made her stay to work on duty. When they returned, they found the woman had not only resigned, but also filed for divorce. She even took all her personal resources to her new company. The man was furious, but could never reach her. Helpless, he took his parents to block her at her private apartment, to pressure her. The woman had just arrived home that night. Her parents-in-law reprimanded her as elders. She had not borne an heir in 5 years of marriage, and now dared to ask for a divorce. She even quit and took their son's business resources. It was outrageous. They ordered her to return the resources to their son, and go home to prepare for pregnancy. Their family didn't need the little money she earned. What they needed was their family inheritance. But the woman, determined to divorce, no longer indulged them. She retorted on the spot. What was their family inheritance? Selfishness or the husband living off her arrogantly? The husband flew into a rage. He raised his hand to hit her, but dared not when he saw her serious expression. Afraid of angering her completely, he only questioned her. Why not live a good life? How long would she keep making trouble? The woman found it ridiculous. She asked him back. When had she lived a good life in 5 years of marriage? Instead, the husband secured his deputy general manager position with her performance. He never understood her hardships. Instead, he teamed up with the scheming woman to suppress her, helped her steal her achievements. Even when the scheming woman humiliated her and made her suffer, the husband turned a blind eye. How could he claim he gave her a good life? The husband explained awkwardly. Everything he did was for the company's overall interests. The mother-in-law shouted angrily. Without her son taking her into the company, she would still be begging on the street. A daughter-in-law who couldn't have children had no right to complain. Besides, her son was the company's deputy general manager. Her nonsense greatly affected his work. Seeing the mother-in-law wanted to break off politeness, the woman also stopped sparing their feelings. She pushed the mother-in-law away, then took out ambiguous photos of the husband and the scheming woman. She questioned if he was busy with work or being ambiguous with her at the company. Asked if he dared to say they were innocent in front of his parents. The husband panicked, but defended the photos as ordinary colleague photos. Said she was making trouble out of nothing. The woman knew arguing was useless. She threw down a divorce agreement and told him to sign and leave. As for property division, she would never take what wasn't hers. The husband's family panicked, but still thought they could control her with a tough attitude. The mother-in-law tore up the divorce agreement. The father-in-law shouted at her not to be too ruthless. The husband put on a show and said he'd give her one last chance to take back her decision. If she handed over her client information and apologized to his parents, he could forgive her. Otherwise, she couldn't gain a foothold in the city. But the woman laughed at how hopeless they were. Since he refused to divorce, she'd make him divorce her way. With that, she left the apartment directly. Until the woman appeared at the top business summit as a special honored guest, the husband and the scheming woman collapsed in realization. The woman they had once humiliated in every possible way had become someone they could never reach. Not long ago, after returning from a trip, the husband and the scheming woman found the woman had resigned, taken all her personal resources, and filed for divorce. But the husband didn't notice the crisis. Instead, he took his parents to her apartment to pressure her, forcing her to hand over all her personal resources to him, and return home to prepare for pregnancy and childbirth. He thought that with a tough attitude, the always obedient woman would give in and let them bully her again. The woman finally realized her husband was completely hopeless. Since he refused to face reality, she decided to make him see it clearly. She dropped the divorce agreement and left the apartment. Later, she not only took her clients from her former company, but also competed for those of the husband and the scheming woman. When the former boss noticed something was wrong, over half the company's clients had canceled cooperation. Monthly performance plummeted by 70%. The boss angrily held the husband and the scheming woman accountable. After all, one was the deputy general manager, the other the sales director. But the scheming woman blamed the woman, claiming that during the previous team building, everyone else went while the woman was left on duty. She held a grudge, and sowed discord among clients. The boss flew into a rage. He reprimanded the man for not controlling his wife. The husband lied that he had disciplined her, and she was just throwing a tantrum. But the boss issued an ultimatum. Whether he begged or disciplined her, he must get the lost clients back in 3 days, or he would be fired. The husband collapsed, yet he insisted on not giving in to her. He immediately froze the bank card he'd opened for her, thinking she'd apologize once she had no money. Little did he know she was prepared. The money in that card was less than a fraction of her salary. As a counterattack, she approached the major client the scheming woman had been begging to cooperate with. With rich experience and a top understanding of the client's core needs, she successfully secured the cooperation. The former boss was furious when he heard the news. He yelled at the scheming woman in the office, calling her an idiot. The project she couldn't get in half a year, the woman took in an hour. The scheming woman broke down. She pressured the husband, threatening to die with the woman if he didn't make her give up the order. Helpless, the man blocked her home again. He waited waited all night but she didn't return. He couldn't reach her any other way. The man completely collapsed, realizing she was determined to hide. But then the scheming woman calmed down. She thought her disappearance was a trick to play hard to get. After all, as an unemployed, divorced woman, she couldn't support herself. She'd soon kneel and beg him to take her back. Little did they know the woman had set her sights on the annual business summit. She was leading her new colleagues to study major clients' core needs. Through their efforts, her company had quietly become the most competitive in the region. In contrast, the former company's performance plummeted. Its current funds were nearly gone. Even the bank refused to renew its loan, because losing the top salesperson, the woman, made the loan risk extremely high. The company struggled to pay salaries. Many employees even wanted to jump to the woman's company. As the husband despaired, the scheming woman saw news of the summit. Her confidence was rekindled. After all, one major order at the summit could stop the company's losses. Faced with this last chance, both prepared with 10 times more effort. On the summit day with many tycoons, the host highlighted an important guest. She was not only an invited judge for the summit bidding, but also the director of the region's most competitive enterprise. When the host announced the woman's name, the husband spat out his water in shock. Until the woman presented evidence in public, the crowd was shocked to realize the woman had single-handedly supported her former company. Yet her husband and the scheming woman had not only forced her out of the company, they now even tried to smear her. It happened just moments ago. The husband and the scheming woman attended the annual business summit. They wanted to secure a major investment there, to save the company from bankruptcy after her resignation. Seeing the woman didn't show up, the scheming woman couldn't help sneering. The woman had taken so many orders from them before. She thought the woman would come again this time, but she couldn't even get in the door. She must be hiding in her rental house crying secretly. The husband also thought that without his and his uncle's company, the woman couldn't find a job. It was normal she wasn't qualified for the summit. But right after he spoke, the host specially introduced a special guest Cranley. She was not only the director of the region's most competitive company, but also one of the special judges for the summit's bidding. The moment the host called the woman's name, the husband and the scheming woman were instantly stunned, until the woman walked to the stage to speak under everyone's gaze, and confidently said she was determined to win several core projects in the bidding. The husband and the scheming woman finally realized the woman they had humiliated everywhere before was now someone they couldn't reach. The husband collapsed weakly on his chair in despair. The scheming woman went crazy with jealousy. She stood up and accused the woman. She was a business thief who jumped to a rival company with commercial secrets. She had no right to stand here and speak. At this moment, the husband also reacted. He stood up and accused the woman of stealing company secrets and betraying the old employer that nurtured her. The venue was instantly filled with murmurs. After all, if what they said was true, the woman and her current company would be ruined. Yet the woman responded calmly. Since the husband and the scheming woman wanted to humiliate themselves, she would satisfy them. Then the woman questioned the two directly. What exactly were the commercial secrets she stole? The two suddenly felt guilty and didn't know how to answer. The woman then explained. The so-called commercial secrets they mentioned were actually resources she had worked hard to accumulate. Over the years, she used her personal resources to help the company make money. But the scheming woman and her husband only rested on her laurels and acted arrogantly. They even teamed up to take her credit. The scheming woman argued those were the company's resources. The woman directly showed evidence on the big screen. First, a comparison between her performance and the company's total performance. It was clear. Her personal performance accounted for more than half of the company's total. It was even more than 10 times that of the scheming woman. This proved she almost supported most of the company alone. Then the woman showed emails and other evidence that over the years, the scheming woman used her power to force her to hand over client secrets and orders. She also showed her salary and benefit lists, proving the scheming woman had been deliberately suppressing her. The woman even showed huge consumption bills from a vacation that the scheming woman took all employees on after she got a 10 million yuan order, while she was ordered to stay and work with 3 interns. What hurt her most was, over the years, when she was suppressed and humiliated by the scheming woman, her husband knew everything but never defended her. Instead, he used ridiculous excuses like, as the deputy general manager's wife, you should contribute to the company, to help the scheming woman bully her. But he had an ambiguous relationship with the scheming woman in private. He even posted their intimate photos in the company group. Hearing this, the crowd finally realized, the husband was a shameless man living off his wife, and the scheming woman was a villain trying to steal the hero's credit. Many partners present also spoke up for her. They terminated cooperation with the former company and worked with hers, not because of commercial secrets, but simply because the scheming woman was incompetent. After all, the scheming woman even searched online when negotiating with them. It was totally insincere. In contrast, the woman was outstanding and could meet their business needs. Hearing this, the crowd finally knew the whole truth. Many tycoons spoke up on the spot. They would terminate cooperation with the husband's company immediately, and even unite to boycott the pair who bullied the weak and feared the strong. It was not until their executive positions were revoked by the boss that the husband and the scheming woman finally realized in despair they should not have made trouble at the business summit because they were jealous of the woman. It happened just moments ago. At the business summit, the two saw the woman they had forced out of the company become a sought-after business star. Overwhelmed by jealousy, they slandered her as a corporate thief who stole trade secrets from her former company. The woman immediately presented evidence. It not only proved she had almost single-handedly supported the former company, but also exposed the ambiguous relationship between the scheming woman and the husband, and that they often joined forces to take her credit and suppress her. The tycoons present were furious. They all threatened to cancel cooperation with the husband's company and transfer their cooperation to the woman. The on-site manager even called security to drive them away for disturbing order. The husband finally panicked. After all, they were counting on securing investments at the summit to save their failing company. He had to beg the woman for help. However, the woman did not even look at him. They were then driven out of the venue. Instead of reflecting on her mistakes, the scheming woman slapped the man and scolded him as a loser who could not even control his own wife. Now they were completely ruined. The husband, who had always curried favor with her, finally could not bear it and retorted. How could he be blamed for everything? If the scheming woman had not insisted on taking the woman's credit, suppressing and humiliating her everywhere in the company, even making her stay on duty during the team building, the woman would never have been forced to leave and would not be divorcing him now. Yet the scheming woman retorted. Had he not supported her when she took the credit? And when he used his commission to buy her bags and pursue her? Why did he not accuse her of stealing credit? They quarreled more and more fiercely outside the venue, and even planned to fight. This scene was filmed by onlookers and posted in industry groups, making them a joke to everyone. They stopped arguing only when the company boss called. The boss had learned about their disturbance at the summit and the industry boycott. He was so angry that he fell ill and was sent to the hospital. After the two hurried to the hospital, the boss shouted at them fiercely. He said the company had no cash flow left. Their actions were pushing the company to bankruptcy. The scheming woman explained that they could find other clients, but the boss roared. The whole industry knew their scandal. No client would cooperate with a company that suppresses meritorious employees and is full of schemes. The boss immediately revoked the husband's deputy general manager position and the scheming woman's sales director position. He also threatened to give them 3 final days to win back the lost clients. Otherwise, he would not only fire them, but also sue them for huge losses. They were devastated, but had to try to find clients. No client was willing to cooperate with two people with poor character and ability. Just as they despaired, an old client suddenly called, claiming to have a 20 million yuan order to cooperate with them, but requiring them to make more concessions. The scheming woman, ignoring the concessions, hurried to seize this lifeline, unaware that it was an even bigger trap.